Okay, it's the top of the hour, and we'd like to welcome all of you who are joining us today on this webinar where we're going to discuss the top highlights of our new revolutionary short-term care product. My name is Dennis Reiner. So good to be with you. I think we're going to go about 30 minutes, so let's get started. And maybe to set the stage for our discussion today, some of you are fairly familiar. These are some statistics that we often use. The fact is the demand, whether it's for long-term care, short-term care, home health care, any of the care planning solutions today, it's never been greater, right? It's never been higher. It's continued increasing. We know that the 10,000 plus baby boomers who are turning 65 every day are playing into that story. And it's interesting to me that when we look at 90% of married couples that will require some form of care, I was reading the other day that actually, if a couple is 55 years of age, some of you on the call may fall into that category, that you actually have a 50% chance of living to age 93, confirming kind of that 90% story that married couples will need some type of care. It's always interesting to know, as long as we've all been in this business, many of you have been in the business like I have for some time, that you're thinking, why haven't more people had this conversation? 90% have never really had a real discussion. And of course, during COVID, we learned just how important it was that people wanted to age in place, that 61% of people surveyed said that they would rather die than actually go into a nursing home. That's pretty staggering when you think about it. And I have a question. My question is, are those of you who are on the call today, and I know that you have an interest, else you wouldn't be on the call, but are you actually fulfilling this growing demand with your clients? Or are you leaving that to someone else? And some of you may feel, because this isn't your core business, your core product that you sell, you might sell annuities or life, final expense, Medicare, that you maybe feel as though that you're not, because you're not a subject matter expert, you're not as comfortable with short-term care as you are with those other products, that maybe you just don't know if this product is going to be hard for you to get your arms around. And I want you to know that the team at GoldenCare, and we've got a fantastic team of back office support, where they're there to help you. We're there to be the go-to resource to make sure that you can share with your clients this very important topic of short-term care, and that you'll know how to start the conversation. Your clients, they're waiting, they're relying upon you to be that resource. And so as we go further in our discussion today, let's just talk a little bit about what's been occurring for some time now, and that is that there's been a shift in the market. There's been actually a paradigm, and this paradigm has actually been coming for some time. It's now here. The short-term care market has taken off in recent years. It's having some incredible growth, and it reminds me a little bit of how long-term care was nearly 20 years ago, when we were having double-digit growth. And so I've often thought to myself, what are all the factors? And of course, we could probably do a webinar just on factors that has been the result of this amazing growth in the short-term care space. But I think maybe for the first time, consumers and agents are actually aligned on the same side of the aisle on this. And there's probably some factors, and maybe for our conversation today, I'll limit it just to a brief discussion about three that agents and consumers both agree upon when they've been asking for products in the marketplace. What they've been asking for, number one, is products that have less underwriting. Number two, they want to have products that are less complicated. People buy simple things. They buy things they understand. And each of us feel the same way. That things that we don't understand, we tend to shy away from. And consumers, when things they don't understand, they tend to say a very famous objection: I want to think about it. And finally, number three, as to the why this shift has been occurring, is because consumers and agents also want to have products that are less costly. So if the marketplace, that being agents and consumers, and whether you feel this is perception or whether you feel this is reality, it doesn't really matter. If they think that it's too difficult, number one, for people to get approved, I'm talking about the marketplace in general. I'm not speaking about short-term care now. I'm talking about other care planning solutions. And if they think, number two, that these products are just too complicated, they're hard to explain. And number three, if they think, oh my goodness, and I've done my share over the years of literally hundreds of consumer workshops, and the number one answer to a question I would pose about people if they'd looked into previously the topic of long-term care, and people would raise their hand and say yes. And I said, what did you learn about this? Number one answer every single time is it's too expensive. So if the consumer and agents feel that affordability is a challenge, they want then to expect and demand on change. And that's what we've seen now in the marketplace. That change or shift that we are seeing right before our eyes is really the success of the short-term care space as far as hitting on all three of those factors. So we're bringing to your attention now, maybe this isn't the first time because you've been on previous webinars, but OmniFlex is our newest short-term care product, underwritten by Standard Life, which is part of the Manhattan Life companies, the carrier that's been around since 1850. This product just didn't happen overnight. It's been nearly 3 years, if you can believe that, 3 long years to some degree in the making, because we knew we had to get it right. And we needed to have the right product, and we needed to have the right partner, and we knew that our timing, it had to be the right time. And so we're so happy with what the results of that relationship of working with Manhattan. This is a carrier, has a long history in the ancillary space. We do a lot of business with them in the Medicare marketplace. They also write over 200,000 policies a year. This is a great partner for us to have with OmniFlex. And so let's maybe take a look at state availability just to see where we are. We started earlier a few months back, earlier in the year, I should say, with a soft launch, because we wanted to basically make sure that we could work out some of the bugs. So we started with 13 states, and then every so often another state would be added, and now we are up to 28 states with 2 more that have been approved that should be added. All total will probably be in the mid-30s. And this is consistent with other short-term care products in the marketplace today. Unfortunately, we'll never be in some of those states that some of you on this call may be listening from, which is New York or California. Washington is always problematic. We're hoping for Minnesota, but we just don't know. We're trying to work with the legislative folks there, Florida. So we may not be everywhere with OmniFlex, but it will be consistent with what's in the marketplace today with the other carriers that also have a short-term care product. And the good news is, at GoldenCare, we have our perfect portfolio, which means if we can't help you with short-term care, we can certainly help you with other solutions in those states where we don't have product availability. So let's come back to that discussion about getting it right. We had to make sure, in order to make sure that we got it right, that we had a product that had wider underwriting. And our 2-tier underwriting certainly does that. We also had to make sure that this product would be simple, not only for the consumers to understand, but for agents to understand. Back to my sharing with you about that people buy simple things. They buy things they understand. And then also we had to really hit the affordability. We know that it was important to have a plan that we could design for any budget, so that if you wanted to actually strip the plan down and just give someone some foundation coverage, you could do that. But if you wanted to load it up and you want it to be comprehensive and compete with some of the other solutions in the marketplace, it had to be able to do that as well. And with an issue age that goes down to 45, we're capturing those in that marketplace who are wanting to plan ahead, some of those younger buyers, and going all the way and expanding that issue age beyond some of the other products in the marketplace today that had mid 70s as a limitation, going all the way up to 89. It really takes us back. It takes us back to the early days of long-term care where our average age was 72. And we're seeing right now already with OmniFlex that we're selling people in the mid 60s, but we are selling the 72-year-olds. We're selling the 78-year-olds. And yes, we're even having people in their 80s, people who thought perhaps they were priced out of or underwritten out of other solutions that they can find, that they can get and have approval because of the wider underwriting. And again, the design of making it simple and flexible and making it affordable. And so we are able to help now more seniors. It's kind of taking us back to the future, if you will, from that, in that respect. So let's go on and see now if we can get into some of the highlights. And there's a saying I like to use that goes like this: an in-depth look always reveals more than a casual glance. So on the surface, when we start to compare, what we want to do today is look at the highlights of how OmniFlex stacks up against product A and product B. And so if we look at this just as a casual glance, we would see the similarity in features that OmniFlex, and we'll call it for our conversation today, product A and product B. And by the way, all these solutions are viable solutions, and all these solutions may come into play at some time. And so we want to make sure that we're not trying to be disparaging towards any one carrier. We represent all the carriers in the marketplace. We're just trying to highlight today the differences, but the similarity is that they pay facility and home care benefits. They provide full benefit period for home health aid. All three of them offer a 0-day elimination period for immediate access. And so what we have to do now is maybe go a little bit deeper in our discussion and talk about where those differences, so we can have that in-depth look. And let's begin with one that, if you're familiar in the long-term care space, we don't talk a lot about restoration in long-term care. But short-term care, it's a different story, because there's ways in which restoration will come into play that doesn't come into play normally in a long-term care situation. So who has restoration? Well, all of them have restoration. All the carriers in the marketplace do. But is there a difference? Yes. The difference does lie in the details. It's that in-depth look that we just talked about. So you can see that OmniFlex and product A allow you to have the ability to restore multiple times up to the maximum of 2 times the benefit period. So even though we're not giving a full training today on OmniFlex and talking about the complete plan design and benefit periods, know that the duration maximum that you can purchase is a 360-day benefit period. But with restoration, it's allowing you then to extend from 1 year of coverage to get 2 years of coverage. Product B only restores benefits once, and there is some limitations, and not to get too deep into that discussion today, but just know that restoration is really important. And I'll come back and maybe pick up a little bit more on that. But let's go a little bit further in our discussion here. So let's talk about next on a spousal discount. Who has it? Well, OmniFlex has it, and product B has it, but product A does not have it. And how important is that discount? By the way, product B's discount is also 10%. You know, we learned in this design and working with Manhattan, and some of you know a lot of our history in the long-term care space, in some of our working with Mutual of Omaha, and also in our Aegon years of Bankers United Life Investors, which became Transamerica, that we recognize that discounts are important from a spousal standpoint, because it pulls in couples sales. Two always becomes better than one. And certainly having a spousal discount doesn't mean that both individuals have to buy the same plan. They can mix and match as far as the plan design, which means if you have a reluctant buyer, I'll just pick on the husband for a moment, or it could be the spouse. But as in this example, one person who maybe is not feeling the need for a very comprehensive, strong plan can still buy a small plan, a baby plan, a foundation plan, and yet the other individual can buy a more robust plan, and both would still have a 10% discount. That's powerful. Discounts are really important in plan design, and certainly if you're going to try to pull in both parties, the added 10% is an advantage in the marketplace. So let's go on and talk about a rider. So far, we've talked about included benefits, but the hospital indemnity is actually a rider. And for those of you that work in the Medicare space, you're very familiar with how important hospital indemnity is. So let's again look at the marketplace today, just comparing OmniFlex with product A and product B. And we can see that OmniFlex has the ability to add a hospital indemnity rider, and product A does as well, and product B does not. And so to give you an example, for those of you that are not as familiar with hospital indemnity fills the gaps in Medicare Advantage plans. And as such, many of you who maybe don't work in the Medicare space, but you've got clients who are 65 and above, it may be when you're bringing up OmniFlex that you'll actually bring up and find out, do they actually have hospital indemnity? Some do and some may not. And so here's a quick example of a 6-day benefit. You can actually purchase with OmniFlex a 3-day or 6-day up to a maximum of $300 a day, which provides an additional $1,800 cash benefit that fills those gaps in that Medicare Advantage plan. It's a very affordable rider. If I were to use an example of a 61-year-old, this might be just a little bit over $20 a month for them to add this as an additional benefit. But the point is, it may be helpful to you in the marketplace. Certainly, if you're talking to a 45-year-old, hospital indemnity isn't going to be on their radar. But when you're selling to that upper age market, it's really nice to know that you have hospital indemnity as an add-on. Going a little bit further here, let's get into a real important rider, and that is inflation. Inflation, because we know that some of the younger buyers may be buying smaller plans and may want to add inflation to help grow that plan over time. Sometimes when we're writing the upper age market, we don't see as much of inflation being added. But on average right now, our sales are illustrating that about half of our business coming in has the inflation benefit. And so let's look at, again, OmniFlex and stack it up against product A and product B. So OmniFlex has an inflation rider, product B has an inflation rider, but is there a difference? And the difference, again, lies in the details. The details are that both will grow the facility benefit between OmniFlex and product A. But here's the separation. OmniFlex will also grow home care, whereas again, product A doesn't have inflation, and product B is limited only to growing the facility benefit. And although we haven't had this discussion yet, also OmniFlex grows a cash benefit that's inside the plan. So one of the differences is that OmniFlex is 5% simple. I will point out that product B has both simple and compound inflation. But remember when I said that we wanted to keep the plan design simple? So part of keeping it simple was to limit the option just to simple inflation versus, not to play too much on the word simple, but just so that we had, we limited the choices to make it easier. But inflation can be an important add-on benefit for your client, depending upon the age and depending upon the plan design that you're actually selecting. So let's come back to a benefit that that's included. Remember, inflation is an add-on, hospital indemnity is an add-on, but built in is our cash benefit. And let's again look at OmniFlex versus product A and product B. This is a huge differential. It's a huge separation for us. And again, I'd like to say that it's because of the lessons that we learned over the many years in the long-term care space about how important having cash in a plan was. We learned this, way back, as I said, pioneering the concept of cash in a long-term care plan back in the Aegon days, and then we basically perfected it with our Mutual of Omaha relationship with the last 3 generation products that we've been very instrumental in working with Mutual of Omaha on. So how does it work? We call it our Fast 50. And the Fast 50 enables that client to have first day cash benefits, no elimination period, it's waived. And again, cash is important. Back in our long-term care days, we found come claim time that over 70% of individuals started their claim using the cash that was in the policy. And you know what? They actually, about the same percentage, finished up their claim using cash. Doesn't mean that people don't progress and don't go to a facility and don't need assisted living or skilled nursing home, but it just tells you how important cash is. This Fast 50, we really think it's positioned to not only be a separator for you in having that discussion, but also we want you to think about this from the standpoint of where some of the objections lie. One of the most common objections that we often hear in care planning with a variety of the solutions, long-term care, hybrids, asset-based, is that people will often say, my spouse or my significant other or a family member, guess what? They'll take care of me. That they already feel like they have a plan and they're not as motivated to want to reach into their pocket and to pay a premium for something that they feel is already being taken care of. And so normally, without having cash in a plan, you find yourself having to be a little bit defensive because you have to basically try to persuade them that, gee, can your spouse who's 5'2" and now the other spouse who needs care is 6'4" and maybe weighs a little bit more than that 5'2", can that person actually lift that person? So we get into all these different gyrations on how we try to rationalize to that client about why that spouse or why that daughter who's the RN who lives down the street, why it isn't a good idea. Instead, with Fast 50, all we simply say is, you know what, Bob and Mary, I can really appreciate the fact that you feel like you can take care of one another. And I also really appreciate the fact that you mentioned that your daughter's an RN. So the great thing about the plan I'm recommending today is this plan allows your family members, allows a friend, it could be a church parishioner, it could be someone that you just have confidence in, that is a neighbor. Any one of those individuals could actually, you could get, in essence, you can pay to take care of you. The Fast 50, we don't know if the numbers, when it's all said and done in the future, as we look back on our claim experience in long-term care, will actually be in that same range, but it really doesn't matter. It's a benefit that's included, and it's a benefit that may help you to move people along in seeing the need for this product and not basically dealing with the roadblock or the objection that often does come up. So a couple other things that we want to touch on here before we finish up with our time together. And again, this is kind of a highlights or just really a short 30-minute webinar. Hospice, although Medicare covers hospice, we are with OmniFlex the only carrier that does have a hospice benefit, both for home and facility. It's small, but again, it may come in handy to get the additional cash. And there wasn't really a big cost for us to include that. So we thought, why not have it? It's a nice way that we separate ourselves again from the marketplace. So, prescription drug benefit. This is an important one. We learned with our sale of in the standalone home healthcare market how important these prescription drug benefits are. And when we look at the marketplace, we can see that OmniFlex really stands out. We've adopted the prescription drug benefit where we allow that client to get $10 for each generic drug or $25 for each brand name drug, up to a policy maximum of $300 a year. And the nice thing is they don't actually have to be on claim. They can just fill out that prescription drug form, submit it to Manhattan, and every year get reimbursed whether or not they're receiving services or not receiving services. This is a fantastic benefit. I call this, when I'm teaching agents on how to position OmniFlex, I call it a premium justifier, because anytime you can help that client to save money. Now, obviously, younger buyers, some may have medications, but the average senior who's 65 and above goes through about 27 prescriptions or refills a year. So it's pretty likely that they could max out that $300 reimbursement. But whether they got $200 or $100, it certainly mitigates that out-of-pocket premium. And it doesn't mean that younger buyers who are 45 or 50 aren't taking certain medications where they could take advantage of the prescription drug benefit. So this is certainly a big separation in the marketplace today to have this benefit included. So finally, let's kind of finish up and just talk about affordability. So OmniFlex, and again, we haven't got into the innovative plan design and some of the things that make this product special, and why we can do all the things that we're talking about doing, because it is part of our innovative plan design. And that will be either in future webinars or it will also be in discussions that you can have with anyone on the GoldenCare team. But let's just look and stack up an example here of a 61-year-old who is single, non-tobacco user, and let's use $200 a day for the facility benefit for a benefit period of 360 days. Let's use a 20-day elimination on the facility. Let's add in the home health care benefit of 360 days, and let's max it out in this example of $300 a day. And let's not have any elimination period, because what we found on the home care side is we can go to a 20, we can go to a 60, we can go to a 90, but there's very little difference between the 0 and 20. And it's always nice to give a client first aid coverage, especially when we know that aging in place is where they want to be, and that they may start their benefit in the home care side of things. So we didn't factor in this example that this was a couple sale, so we didn't take it into consideration that 10% additional spousal discount. Had that individual been a tobacco user, that would have been an additional 10% load, and that would have moved the premiums up very slightly. Also, we didn't take into consideration what we just covered with the prescription drug benefit reimbursement of the $300 a year, which if we were to add in the prescription drug reimbursement of $300 and add in the spousal discount, that $91.86 premium would drop all the way down to $57.68. Now, in fairness, product B would also have a 10% discount, dropping that premium down to $103. But there's all kinds of comparisons, and so maybe just to summarize in just the minute or so that we have left, we touched on the Fast 50. We touched on the optional inflation benefit. We touched on how important affordability is. We just covered again the value of the $300 RX reimbursement, and restoration, how important restoration can be, because oftentimes with claims in long-term care, like a hip replacement, a fall or fracture, they may never hit that 90-day certification, because with OmniFlex, you don't have a 90-day certification. And as such, it would be more likely then that they could use restoration and go 180 days of being claim-free and have that benefit again restore up to that 2 times. But also remember the importance of the simplified underwriting, having a two-tiered underwriting, tier 1 and tier 2, which we can get in more detail as part of the follow-up. And also remember, this is not reimbursement. This is a full indemnity cash benefit. We think these are great advantages, and we hope today, as we just have taken a very fast approach to giving you the highlights, that that you've been able to see why we're so excited about OmniFlex. Coming up, just so you know, on Wednesday, July 26th at 10 a.m. Central, is we're going to have another webinar that you may want to sign up for. I don't think you'll want to miss this. You'll get a chance to hear from Tom Randall. I'll be on that webinar. Some of our great team members, John Randall and Jeff Clark and others at GoldenCare. In addition, we got a special guest from Manhattan Life. And really, it's going to be you asking questions as well as us maybe sharing some stories. And we think it'll be very interactive, and we hope that you'll take the time to allocate to come on to that particular webinar as well. So I don't know, there may be questions. I'm about a minute over our time here. So I'm going to stop and pause and see if we have any questions so far.
I was just taking a look, Dennis. I know people, once you mention questions, people may start typing some in, but at this point, I don't see any questions outright. We just had someone confirm that the audio and the visual was working. So yeah, I mean, this upcoming presentation next Wednesday is going to be great. That open discussion, so far that I understand, it'll actually be a live. We will be unmuting attendees with their question. So if they need to elaborate, they'll be able to actually vocalize that. And again, that special guest from Manhattan Life, Tom Randall, Dennis. I mean, Tom's the brains behind the OmniFlex concept. So any questions, bring them to us this next Wednesday.
That's great, Lynn. And you know, I want to just, in conclusion, just share with everyone who's been on this call today the importance of reaching out to the GoldenCare team. You know, prior to next Wednesday, maybe today, tomorrow, whenever you actually are doing a client review or you've got a client interview coming up, let us run that comparison. What I showed you today, we can do for you. We can show you how OmniFlex stacks up against the competition. When I say competition, I mean other products. We represent all those products, product A and product B, and we can tell you whether or not this would be your client would be a candidate for OmniFlex, or maybe are they, because of certain circumstances, a candidate for product A or product B. But we want to make sure that we're helping you to get started, because I think once you do, and once you get comfortable, you're going to just see how easy it is to add OmniFlex to your portfolio. It may not become a core product, but I think what you're going to find is that when you're a resource in more than one area, you know, clients begin to rely upon you, and the stickiness of that relationship with the other products really will help you with your persistency. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. I hope you found this information helpful, and please reach out and let us again help you get started with OmniFlex.
Well, before we completely close, I do want to mention that some agents were quite observant. There is an error. In fact, there's two errors on this slide. The January 26th on the image,
I did see
actual. They're pretty well.
Well, hey,
I must say. So that's actually July 26th, which is Wednesday next week. And one of our own staff members pointed out, and it came down to having this slide created while that panel of experts webinar was still in development. It is not at 10 a.m. next Wednesday, but like the image says, this time the image is right, it is at 2 p.m. Now, the register here is not live during this live webinar. We will be sharing these slides afterwards, in which those things will be corrected, but then that registration link will be live in the PDF slides that you'll receive afterwards.
Okay, well then it's, you know, hey, that tells you that people are paying attention, and also the staff is paying attention, which is great. I'd rather than be doing that than multitasking and doing other things. So hey,
yeah,
that's all good. Again, we have a great team here at GoldenCare, and I certainly feel that you'll want to tune in next Wednesday uh, uh, at 2 p.m. July 26th, as Linda said. So,
Yes.
hey, again, thanks for arranging your schedule to be on this call. We hope that if you've got additional questions, you'll reach out to the team at GoldenCare, and we're here to help you to get started on this journey, because demand has never been greater than it is right now, as we just talked about. And I will tell you that this is a product that, again, whether it's comprehensive in nature or whether it's foundation in nature, you can help so many more people. And I think you're going to find, and we already are finding, Len, one last point, is agents who kind of left the market because the going got a little bit tough with underwriting and also the complexity that we talked about and some of the affordability issues. We're now seeing those same individuals coming back because they really feel like this is an opportunity to take advantage of this whole short-term care market. And in particular, we're excited to again, with 3 years in the making, for individuals to see just how great OmniFlex is, and the success really is in the numbers of where sales have been. So again, thanks everyone for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
OmniFlex. Put it in your portfolio today. Call GoldenCare at 800-842-7799.